And also, my voice is not half as strong, so I'll do my best to speak up, but like give me a shout in some way if you can't hear me, or maybe come here or something. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Anti-University Now project, and this is a slide that I prepared for a different presentation, so I hope it's okay. The last one I did was in front of 80 students and graduates. And I think there was a kind of collective debt in that room of about £1.5 million, which was really interesting. Indicated that I don't know what's the collective debt here. I hope it's less. Somebody want to calculate? So maybe I'll start by saying that I didn't go to university, and what kind of attracted me to come here today is that as well. So I'm an autodidact. I've not got a single degree, and not planning on getting one. I'm okay actually. I'm a professional curator. I get paid for working in the arts, and apparently that's possible without a degree. So the anti-university is not something that me and my co-organizer kind of invented. It's based on an institution from 1968. It was a university of sorts. It had an address at 49 Rivington Street in Shoreditch. It's now a kind of fancy shoe shop or something. And it was very much of its time. It was, I mean, everybody knows 68, Paris was burning, and the rest of it. And a lot of young people felt that while life for young people was easy, I mean, there was free education, free travel, free housing, grants of various types, and kind of loans, whatever. The institutions themselves, universities, were not actually discussing or we're not addressing the problems that young people thought mattered, and you know, kind of wider society. I mean, the world was kind of waking up from the nightmare of empire, let's say, and two world wars and all that. And universities were still teaching the same old subject in the same old ways, and you were talking about the kind of single aim thinking. So yeah. So in Paris, we took to the streets, and workers and students in solidarity shut the city down, or the whole country for a while. And in London, a bunch of academics, all pretty much white and male, although there were some, Stuart Hall was there, and there were other people from sort of outside of the white establishment, set up the Anti-University, which was still an institution. So there was, like I said, there was a building, there was a list of courses. They were radical and interesting and critical of universities and of the subject that were taught elsewhere. But it was essentially an institution, and people paid £8 to be on the on the register and to attend courses. There's a list of courses somewhere. Maybe you can read my presentation. Yes, I don't know if anybody can read anything. Some stuff about dragons and sort of critical political thinking and the rest of it. They lasted 9 months because they were absolutely shit running institution, and they all hated each other, and there was a lot of smoking. And if you want to watch a little video about it on YouTube, if you just Google Anti-University, because it's the only thing that will come up. So they kind of followed within 9 months, and that was the end of it officially. But actually, quite nicely followed the presentation. I mean, it was very short-lived. And possibly, you know, in kind of institution terms it failed, but the legacy continued. It has not disappeared. And of course, over the years there were lots of, I mean, the Free University of New York, the Free University of Copenhagen, various, you know, groups and collectives and organizations that set up sort of alternative education groups or institutions or whatever. Some of them lasted longer than others. So there's definitely a legacy. This is a kind of screen grab from last year's Anti-University Now. So I'm going to quickly describe how we kind of started doing this. In about this time last year, two people that I've never met before set up a meeting at Hackney Museum where they had a tiny grant of about £500 to look at the anti-university of '68 and kind of maybe do a little display or a leaflet or something that kind of local museums might do. And they invited other people to think with them about what it might be, which is something the Hackney Museum, that they do it with every exhibition, and it's great if you get on the list because you can think with them. It's quite progressive local authority museum. So I knew that meeting because I was interested in what an anti-university might be. I've never heard about it before, and the three of us sort of continued the project. We thought, okay, we don't have the answer, we don't know what an anti-university might be today, but we want to think again collectively with lots of other people. So we did a public meeting at Open School East, which, if you don't know, is another alternative education sort of institution in London, and thought that 20 people would turn up, and 180 people turned up. And you know, they wanted to think with us about what an anti-university might be today. And the conclusion was that it should be some sort of festival in which we look at the challenges that universities or university education presents today. So even though all those sort of radical progressive policies from the anti-university of '68, you know, you can find them in any kind of provincial university. You can do queer studies and post-colonial studies and all that pretty much everywhere. But the university itself has turned into another sort of machine of the state or of neoliberal capitalism. So, you know, sort of culture ate counterculture and hollowed out the institution. Universities are no longer possibly the place for critical thinking and reflection. And you know, if we think about what the institutions are today, I mean, they're completely educated and involved in property speculation. I mean, universities are directly responsible for displacing people from their neighborhoods through, you know, student accommodation and so on. So are these the place where you know, critical thinking and collective thinking and self-organization can happen? And we were trying to think, where should it happen? Should we start a new institution? And we were strictly against that. And when we think, again, from your concession, for where could the sites of resistance to all those things be? If we think about the factory gates of sort of the 20th century, they don't exist anymore. I mean, not in this country. There is no industry. There are no factory gates. There are no places for for organization, for collective sort of resistance. There are, I mean, the traditional industries are gone, but there are different industries. And when we kind of thought about it, I mean, I'm sure I'm not inventing anything here, but we were thinking that, you know, there's the sort of the property industry, there's the financial industry. These are not going to be sites for resistance, but there is the, you know, the education market, let's say, you know, universities and everything around them. I mean, we probably produce more foreign students than we produce any objects in this country. And then there is the culture industry. And these are the places, these are the two sort of industries and the convergence of them where resistance can happen. And again, we thought, you know, an anti-university today should be not led by any one voice, and it shouldn't be led by academia. It should be, anybody should be invited to teach. And we kind of set up this invitational model where we just put out an invitation, and we did that once in the first year. We said, you know, anybody is a teacher and anybody is a student. Anyone is invited to teach any subject in any form, anywhere. You don't have to have a certificate or a degree or anything to teach or to study. We thought, again, that there will be, you know, 5 London events in places like this with people like us or like yourselves. And we're absolutely amazed to have 60 submissions. So they're not applications because anybody really can teach, there's no selection. We had 60 events up and down the country, from Cornwall to Sheffield, taught by people who we don't know, which is amazing, people that we've never met and probably never will meet. I mean, this is just a selection. I mean, there was a walk around the nuclear power station. There were quite a few things about R.D. Lamb, who was involved in the university. There is the Red Square is an event about psychometry of text, about reading academic text through sealed envelopes, because it actually doesn't matter. I attended this event. It was pretty much as accessible through a sealed envelope as it is when we opened it. And it's happening again this year. Everybody's invited. It's a great event. What else? Looking into Hackney archives and the sort of archive of local culture, which is not necessarily white and class culture, and so on. Here are some pictures. I think we acknowledge that even though there were events all over the country organized by lots of different people, we still face the problem that lots of cultural events face in terms of the demographic, and we are trying to work on it. Again, it's an open invitation, but not everybody feels invited even when you put the invitation out there. So we know that not everybody has got the confidence to teach, or to think that their knowledge is valid as a kind of public form of knowledge. Not everybody's got the confidence to talk about their experience. But I think we're getting better. So there's a lot of fumbling. Yes, this is a quote from 69. From very few bits of writing that have been written about the University. And I think I added it to the presentation because we are thinking about the University as self-organization and education as direct action. The idea is not to teach stuff. Like we say, anybody can teach, and you all know stuff already, whatever that might be. The idea is to self-organize. And that self-organization as a form of resistance, and that's why I mentioned the union before. I passionately feel, and happy to talk about it to anybody for hours, that joining a union, for example, is the best form of resistance today, because unions are the enemies of the Tories and writers. And if you're an artist, join an artist union in England. So this year, the festival is happening in June. It's happening in, I can't remember how many venues, but there are over 100 and maybe 20 events. Again, from Cornwall to Scotland, mostly in London, unfortunately, but that's what happens when you invite people. They just turn up if they want to. There's going to be, on the Saturday alone, 40-something events. So we kind of realised that it's grown to the point where maybe it moves from sort of being collaboration to being competition, and we are very mindful of how to prevent that. We don't want to create competition between events and between organisers. That would be exactly the opposite of what we're doing. And I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but part of the model of how we're working is that there's the three of us. It's me and Emma and Alex. None of us have organised anything exactly like that before. And then there is a kind of empty chair. So anybody who wants to work with us for a bit or for a long time is most welcome to join us. There have been people who did quite a lot with us. Some people just give us advice when we ask for it. We do a lot of collective thinking, so when we have a problem or a challenge, or we want to explore something new, we ask the people that we speak to, or new people. This is the website. So on that website you see all the events and the program and where stuff is happening and how you can book it. It's important to say that everything is of course free. So there's been no education debt related to the University. Everything is free, including everybody's labour. So we are not paid. Nobody's paid to run events. Nobody's paying to attend events. All the venues are offered for free. Everything is in that spirit. And also, I think that's the last one. Yeah. But so I've written some notes in response to your talk, and it was so interesting. And I suppose the idea of sort of critiquing the institution from within, from inside, we just opted out. I mean, there are some academics who teach at the Ant University, but we're kind of not really engaged with academia. We don't really care. We don't go to universities, and we don't particularly want to be hosted by universities. We don't want money for universities or from anybody. So this is kind of not criticism, it's just kind of the way we chose. And people find it very curious that we don't want money, because how can you do that? And it is a challenge. But that's what we decided to do. So, I mean, universities, I don't know, they can manage. We're not going to help them to kind of work out their own problems. They can work out themselves. It's not an art project. It's really important to say. I mean, it's not talking about stuff, it's actually doing stuff. So, even though a lot of, well, some of the events are organised by artists or have got some sort of art context, and there might be a performance of some sort or something like that, it's definitely not an art project. It's not curated. Yeah, it's activism more than anything. And I suppose the last thing, it's related, but it's a bit of a tangent maybe, is to talk about violence. The Ant University was set up in '68, and that was a year after the Dialectical Liberation Conference that was held in London at the Roundhouse in Camden. And that was a 10-day conference with people coming from all over the world, mostly the States and here, and some big names. And sort of Alan Ginsberg saying that, you know, in the context of violence, we should be kind of hugging the cops and everything, and then Stephen Carmichael kind of showing his guns and getting arrested straight away.
Showing his what?
His gun, because he was Black Panther. Yeah, so it's kind of the spectrum of response to violence, of kind of thinking about violence in the context of what was happening in '68. And maybe this is something that I think a lot about, and I would really like to think collectively with other people. So maybe that's the question that I would put out there, and if people want to take it with me. The idea that austerity is a form of violence. It is not a kind of plan to, you know, shift things around and make it, I mean, in my view, and kind of see how they would work. It's a form of violence against working class people, against people of color, against, you know, any sort of minority. And where is the point where we should respond with violence? The Ant University is not officially calling for violence, because it speaks for many people, it's not just me. I'm not officially calling for violence, I'm just really curious to think about it with other people. And it will be explored in some of the events, definitely. So yeah, that's it.
Any questions or anything like that? Get some questions going, want to respond? Do we think that, you know, there is a place for university still, or do you think that it should be abolished?
I don't really get it. Like, is it like an alternative to university, or?
It's not a university.
No.
It's a program of self-organized events happening mostly during that festival, during the festival days, so it's 9th to 12th of June this year, but also throughout the year.
In protest of university.
In opposition, it's an alternative, yeah. But it's not just university, there's a whole idea of like who's invited into knowledge creation and knowledge sharing. Who's allowed to learn and teach.
When you say about, like, I think that it sounds a really interesting project, it sounds great, and I imagine it would like lead through into those different things that are happening, like, it sounds really important, but the thing you're saying about, you know, when is it appropriate to respond with violence? Like, I think, like, the worrying thing I think about, you know, and it's the same with you not wanting to engage with universities. It's like, you know, what am I being used for? You know, when you're, you know, it's like this university is so progressive that it's even funding an anti-university. You know, we even pay for people who say we're shit because we're just so self-critical. You know, it's just like, actually, I feel like the same thing's happening with the violence of austerity, because I can't believe that like this government would like destroy services for young people, like youth centres and mental health services, and you know, so many services that really are vital to stop young people ending up like angry, homeless, with nowhere to go, unemployed. I mean, well, I guess unemployed is a separate thing, but like I feel like unemployment comes into it is that they're doing this, they're pushing people in one direction and they're waiting, they're catching them as soon as they fall off the edge of the table. So it's like, oh, you have no prospects, do this shit job that you can do, or like, oh, you have no prospects enough, join the army, become a pawn for us. Like, and then with violence, it feels like, I mean, look what happened in the riots. The sentences that people got, it's like the industrial prison complex is happening already, like, so they need people to break the law. They really, and I hate saying this out loud because I don't want to like reinforce that fear, but I do feel like that this country is ready it already has been criminalising black people for a long time, like, and working class people and migrants, but like, it wants to keep doing that because just like the university, just like the military, prison is also a business and it needs people to go into it to be arrested. So that's why I just feel like, and I totally agree with you about like not wanting to engage. I'm definitely not decided. Like I see that. What is the point of engaging with this? The only thing I can say is just steal from institutions. I would say take money from the university because it's like money. Because it's money. Like, girls and shit, food.
Yeah, I mean, the issue of money always comes up. And I'll just kind of quickly respond to that and then to the rest of it. Yeah, everybody's always asking us, so like, when are you going to take money? How can you do it? I don't know. I mean, it's shitloads of work, and I don't know how we're going to do it. And we're just going to continue doing it until we probably can't do it anymore, and then somebody else will do it. We got very good advice from the people who used to run This Is Not Gateway. I don't know if you know this festival. If you don't, check out their program. It's also online. It was an amazing festival of critical urbanism. Super expressive, really radical people, very interesting. And they said they kind of set up the festival and they said they'll only do it for 5 years because after that it's too much. And we're probably going to do the same. We'll probably go till 2018, which is the 50th anniversary of 68, and kind of leave it there and let somebody else take it from there. So, anybody involved. It's not mine, it's not ours, it's kind of everybody's. And until then, we'll just do it with no money. I mean, it's pretty suicidal, absolutely. But it's kind of working so far. We've all got jobs, obviously. That's how we fund it. And that's how everybody else is funding it, so that's fine. And about violence, I mean, yeah, what you're describing, that's what happened to the Black Panthers. And they were all like put in prison or murdered. Obviously we don't want that. But is it time for people who are, white middle class people to kind of join, it shouldn't be about, about sort of single issue struggle because then that's the neoliberal trick of like separating us. And that's what I'm saying, unions are so important. It's not about being black or being queer or being a woman or being working class. It shouldn't be about that. But it's not, it's not an answer, it's just another question.
I'm interested in so this runs as like a festival over like a week every year.
It's massive.
No, I don't mean like little like that, but I mean like it's a week of the year. So I'm like interested in how, without any form of funding or something else going on, how sustainable it is to actually offer it as like an alternative form of education that like can exist like in a long term, like for a longer development more than just like a series of lectures. Do you know what I mean?
Why does it have to survive long term?
I'm not saying it does have to, but I think it's for growth, right? Because you want to learn, because if you're like interested in learning in an alternative way, then I don't know, I feel like I would want to do that as a regular thing. I guess I'm asking like whether this does become a regular thing, whether the people that you work with then go off and do like...
I think that was my question, like, is it an alternative to university? Like, I'm not sure what exactly it's about.
I mean, it depends what you're trying to get from university. You won't get a degree from us.
Yeah,
So, you can't, you want to be more employable in the kind of, not that, any of us is
following on from that, it's kind of like, what are your aims for the people who are going to be coming along to these courses? Do you mean, how does this support them in their kind of like, in their development of their kind of, politically, personally, spiritually? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you going to be like, is that part? Are you thinking about that, or is it just like, hey, we really want to get people in, so they're kind of like thinking critically, and then you're hoping that they're going to go away and just do their own thing, or?
The thing is, sorry, we don't have, I mean, people advise us to get this kind of aims and objectives, and we probably do one day, especially, I mean, I don't know, if we were one day to ask for money, but I don't know, that it's an invitation. We just said, hey, anybody can teach and learn anything, anywhere, and we would have been happy with 5 people teaching and learning from each other, and the fact is that there are hundreds of people, I mean, there were 1,200 people last year attended events. There'll be about, I imagine, maybe 2,000, 2,500 people attending an event this year. I don't know what each one of them gets from it, and I don't know what they might do with that knowledge or with these ideas next. And maybe they'll set up their own anti-university. I mean, you know, maybe you guys, if you think it's important for it to be like a long-lasting project, by all means, get involved. I don't know. But the fact is that we put out the invitation and so many people kind of want to join us or want to do their own thing. And I think that is, if nothing else, there's value in that. There are enough people out there who, you know, they might just want to learn about, I don't know, how to do something, how to fix your bike, or why you should eat insects. There was something last year. Or, you know, or do a radical bird watching walk that is happening this year.
So kind of almost encouraging
That's
people.
cool. If they just want to do that, that's absolutely cool, you know, sure. But if they get an idea that you can self-organize, that you can do things collectively, that you can think with other people, you know, everyone's a winner.
Are you familiar with the Workers' Education Association? That's a pretty much similar idea, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there are groups up and down the country, and we're working, you know, we try to work with whoever wants to. Well, we don't work with them, we just say, you know, do you want to join us? So, yeah, there is a Raleigh University in Manchester, there is alternative schools in London, there's evening classes, open school, there's Open Day, there's loads of groups. Yeah.
Is there already a queer identifying programme, or are there just random queer things that pop up?
For this year?
Yeah.
Okay, so the program's closed, yeah, so the kind of, you know, process of how it happens is that we put a call out. We did that in March, I think, and on the 10th of April was the deadline. So however many people submitted events by then, that's it. And now the program's out. It's on the website, and that's it. We're not adding any more because, like I say, adding any more, it'll be about competition. There are lots of different strands in the program. There's loads of walks, which kind of look at the city, where it's happening in a kind of critical way. A lot of politics, a lot about self-organization, but then like the really random things like, you know, meditating while baking bread. I mean, sure, you know, people really care about that. Yeah, I don't know, bird watching, radical bird watching. I can't remember, I mean, there's no way I can remember all the events.
There is one on the Friday the 10th in the morning, trans.
That's right. How to transition.
Yeah.
Yeah, common house. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, sort of radical politics. Thank you.
Okay.